One of the comments that I frequently see on the video overviews of logic puzzles that I do is that the puzzle does not contain enough challenges for the price. Whatever the number of challenges, whatever the price, it's not enough. So if you find yourself making comments along these lines, or you're just looking for more brainy bang for the buck, you might consider looking at the IQ series of logic puzzles from Smart Games. IQ Twist, like all of the logic puzzles I've seen from Smart Games, is from designer Rolf Peters. The IQ series is a small portable series of games from Smart. They all retail for $10. If you're lucky, you'll find them at a thrift store like I did for $1. Probably not going to happen, but it could if I didn't get there first. I've definitely gotten $1 worth of entertainment out of IQ Twist. Whether you will get $10 out of entertainment value out of it, well, you'll have to decide for yourself. Let me show you how this works. Here are the components of IQ Twist, which, like all of the titles in the IQ line, come packaged in a plastic carrying case for ease of transportation. You have the pieces that come in a grid, and all of the IQ titles give you pieces of some sort with a grid of some sort, and you must place those pieces in that grid following restrictions of some sort. It's very much an archetypical placement puzzle. Place the pieces in the grid. There you go. The twist in this case, aside from the graphic look of the pieces, which have this Celtic braiding to them, is that the pieces all have one or more holes, and the pegs that you put into the grid will give some restrictions on where pieces can be placed. So this piece, just a 1x4 piece, it can go anywhere in the grid where the hole goes over an empty space or a blue peg. So that's legal, that's legal, that is not, since it doesn't actually fit. That is not, since it's a green piece on a blue peg. So the puzzle booklet contains 120 challenges. That's where you're getting all your money's worth here. All your value comes from those 120 puzzles. You set up the pegs and the initial piece as indicated in the particular puzzle. The first 18 puzzles show where one piece goes as an aid for solving. And then after that, you're given only pegs, and that's it. There's little grid coordinates down below the image in case you want to count it out or it's not exactly clear. You've got A, B, C, D and a 1 to 8 around the side. You put everything in and then put the pieces in the grid. That's it. So in this case, as you solve them, you'll start seeing how things work together, some restrictions that you have available to you. These blue pegs are at a diagonal, but the two blue pieces do not have holes at a diagonal, so one blue piece goes on one peg, another on the other. Obviously, it does not go like this because then nothing goes here. This goes here. The green one has to fill that space. The only way that the blue one fits is like this. Again, this is puzzle number 1, so things are fairly straightforward. This yellow peg here can't be covered by this one because of the red peg, and of course none of the other directions work, so this is the only piece that's possible. And to fit in this space, you can't do something like that. This is the only way it's going to work to cover both pegs. You're left, really, the only choices now are these remaining 3 pieces and trying to figure out how those work. Everything here has been kind of scripted for you, which is how a lot of puzzles work when they are showing you how to do the initial things. So there you go. Puzzle number 1, done. You can dump everything out, get the pegs out here. You can move on to another puzzle. Let's say puzzle 24, that's the last in the starter section. You have 120 puzzles at 5 levels of solving, 24 puzzles in each. Sometimes the setting up of the pegs is the most tedious thing, just because you're just like, well, this doesn't help you solve anything, but you need to put them in place. And now you get to work with this. And again, we've got the blue pegs at a diagonal. So you know each one is going over a different peg. And like before, you're not doing this, you're not doing anything else. In theory, this could go like this or like this. So it could go, now you have choices on what's going to happen. But if you do this, if you do that, then of course you've got an empty space. If you do this, then you need a green piece that's 3 long that can go here, and neither of these work, so clearly that is not how things work here. And you get this. This does not allow you to cover both green pegs. You have a choice here. You have a choice here. So in theory, this goes here. This goes here. But now you're not going to fit everything else. So that's not appropriate. Do this, do this. Wait a minute, that doesn't look right. This only goes here. Oh, duh. Well, that works, that works, that works. Done. There you go. 24. Oh, let's skip ahead. What the heck is this? Yellow, blue, red. That's it. And now you get busy solving things. And of course, it looks like there's not much to work with, but this red one can't be covered by this piece. So it has to be this one. And again, you sort of have to ignore the twist. The twist does make it a little harder sometimes to see what the piece actually is, just that it's 2 and then 2 offset, because sometimes you just want to look at it this way. That's not how it fits in the grid, so don't do that. This one cannot go here because something would be outside the grid. This one can't go like this, so you're forced to put it this way, which gives you knowledge here. You knew this one can't go. This one has to go in here. It can go like this, or it can go like this. And then you'll carry on from this moment, trying to fit everything else in place. I'll leave that as a challenge to you. And there's an overview of IQ Twist, which once again I purchased used from a thrift store. I have solved 40 or 50 of the challenges out of the 120 included in the package. Not 100 as it shows on the box, but 120, which I believe is the case for all of the titles in the IQ line. I have previously solved challenges in the IQ Blocks title, IQ Fit, and IQ Focus. And all of these titles, as I mentioned, are placement puzzles. Get these pieces, place them in this grid, following these certain restrictions. There you go. In a way, the IQ line is a bit like a massive bowl of chocolate ice cream, or vanilla if you wish. I will take chocolate. Where it's appetizing, it's good, you like it, but there's only so much of it you can handle at once. It's too much of a good thing. Doesn't have any flavorings or mix-ins or nuts or fudge or whatever mixed in to provide some variety. It's plain chocolate all the way through, where it's good, but then you're ready to move on. So I'll solve a dozen puzzles at a time and then put it aside for a while, and then I'll pick it up a few weeks later and I'll do another dozen puzzles, sometimes repeating where it was. I don't exactly remember where I got up to, and then I'll do more. After a while, it kind of doesn't matter. You just open it, you pick out a certain point, you're like, okay, yeah, I think I'm an expert now, and you just start. And I suppose, yes, I can mark them off or do something where I remember what I've done previously, but it almost doesn't matter just because it doesn't matter. And I'm 100% sure these puzzles are all computer generated, where Rolf Peters sets up the challenge. He's got certain restrictions. Here's the pieces you're working with. And now we're going to run through iterations and we'll figure out which peg placements work out unique solutions, because all of the puzzles have a unique solution. I believe that is true for all of the IQ line, which is great because it feels good that there's one true solution that you have to work toward, and you know it can happen, so it's not an accident when you find it. You work through the possibilities, you find the solution, you're like, great, okay, now I can move on. They're a bit samey as you go through them. That's how you get 120 of them, because you can imagine the computer spitting them out, and then you're ranking them in some manner based on how many possible ways things can fit in. I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff happening behind the scenes. So the IQ line gives you a ton of puzzles that feel somewhat similar as you're going through them. There's not that much difference after you get through those early parts where you just have pegs in a grid and that's it. And you can't tell that one is necessarily harder than another except where it's placed in the puzzle book. So I showed you that one where it has only 3 pegs in it, but you could immediately figure out, oh, well, this has to go here, and then there's 2 possibilities for this one, and it gives you a head start towards the solution. You can lock in a couple of things right away and then work from there through the rest of it. And then as you go through into the harder ones, there's more possibilities at the beginning, but then you just knock them out. So it gives you a lot of things to work through, a lot of challenges in a very tiny package, which is great for travel because I will often bring these to play on the plane. The IQ Focus one, it has a 5x9 grid, and the puzzles, the challenges out of the 120 challenges show you the center 3x3 grid. And it shows you what colors should be in that 3x3 grid because the pieces are all polyomino pieces with 4 different colors scattered across them. And if you fill them in the right way in that 3x3 grid, well, then you will solve it because you have to fit everything else in as well. With the IQ blocks, there are some fences that restrict where pieces go. IQ fits, you have these spheres that are connected by plastic in a line, but then off the line, there are spheres at right angles. And so the grid has holes in it and you have to place the pieces down. So if you place it this way, it'll be a row of 3 spheres with a ball sticking out here. But if you rotate it 90 degrees with that single ball sticking down in the grid, now it's 3 spheres in a row with a sphere at the top and the sphere at the bottom. So the pieces are different sizes as you're fitting them in the grid. It's a very different approach because sometimes you have too many pieces to fit in the grid just based on how you're fitting things in there. It's a very nice twist on how these types of puzzles work. Okay, I didn't mean to say twist, but I did. IQ Twist works really well with the pegs. Again, it's a little tedious sometimes just like doing the pegs, especially in the early puzzles, which you can kind of run through quickly because I've solved these, and then before I did this video, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the first 30 of them again, just to remind myself how it works, see all this. And the first ones are very much like peg, 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 peg. Takes a while, boom, 15 seconds, done. Okay, and then do it again. So at a certain point of familiarity, it's too much of a good thing. And then you run through it for a while, and then I just put it aside, and I forget about it. I move on to something else, then I can come back to it again, or try out one of the other ones, and you get a lot of puzzles in that price. One other note, which is of interest, possibly only if you work in a retail environment, which I have done, is you got hang tags for these, so you'll find them in pegs in different educational stores. I've seen them in Target as well, different titles in the IQ line on the pegs. And of course, these are always super annoying when you're trying to put things on a shelf. But this, if you'll notice, disappears. More specifically, if you open the box, this is a separate piece of cardboard which will just come out. And so you will have only the box. If you want to put the puzzle back inside a box so you don't scratch up the plastic, you can get rid of that hanging tag part, and then you'll just fit on the shelf with other titles or other items of similar size. So I used to work in a retail environment, and I love little details like that where things are useful for the retailer. I can hang it if I wish, or I can set it onto a shelf, possibly in a POP display where I have 5 different types lined up in some sort of arrangement. Put that out there. I love those little details. It's just a nice touch where you have this element here that that's superfluous, but you can do different ways. You can display this item in different ways on your shelf. You will not do that probably because you are not a retailer. You will not hang this on a peg at your house, but you could if you wish. So that's a bonus.